What's up, family? Finally here for Mental Health Fridays. I took notice in my last video where someone said that they missed Mental Health Fridays. So here I am with a great conversation for Mental Health Fridays. And we're going to talk about Eboni Williams. Now, I know I saw a brother in the chat state that he really wished that I was talking about Jordan Neely. And there's a time and place for everything, just like I took a few days to come up with this because I like to examine a lot of information, dig deep, look at the facts, look at the context. I like to do a lot of things before I actually go live. And for that reason, that's why I'm a lot slower to go live because this is not my gig. This is not my hustle. This is not my career. I do this for the people. I'm not doing this for fame or popularity or to get money. That's not why I do these videos. So that's why I'm not on here as often as other people will be on YouTube and other social media platforms that are monetized. So with that being said, I think it's a Mr. London, if I'm not mistaken. With that being said, I am not ignoring you, and we are going to talk about Jordan Neely, just not today because we do have a conversation that needs to be had. And the last thing I want to say before we go ahead and get started is for those who have texted me, and I will be interviewing you guys for the platform. You'll be coming on with me live and having a conversation for the people. I have not forgotten about you. I have been healing from my knee surgery, just really taking my life slow day by day as I get back into moving around and physical therapy and all the other things that I am currently undergoing. And for the one woman, I don't know what her name is because I didn't see the comment, but my partner saw the comment and he felt the need to tell me, to the one woman who felt some kind of way that I did my last video in my bedroom. We could just tell some people just want to be angry, just to be angry, and they really don't research or really listen to what's being said for the reasons why I was actually in my bed. So just in case you took your headphones off with the music playing when you just watch me in a video and not actually hearing what I'm saying, I had knee surgery a week ago. So that's why I was in my bed. So this is not about optics, and that's the problem that I have with a lot of people in our community. Is really all about optics and how we appear and how we look, right? We love the optics of things, and I talk about this all the time. You saw me in my bed and you felt the need to say something because you didn't like the way it looked. It's going to be a perfect conversation for Mental Health Fridays today. I promise y'all, it's going to be a perfect conversation for Mental Health Fridays because people do not skip a beat. So go ahead, y'all, share the video. I'm going to try to keep this language in this video PG-13. So feel free, share the video. If you are on Facebook or YouTube, make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe to the video. Make sure you comment in the comment section. All these things are extremely important in the algorithm. So make sure y'all all be a part of it. So let's go ahead and get started. I have a video that I clipped up and I'm going to show you guys the video so we can frame this conversation today so we can frame it properly. Now, let me tell you what I mean when I say that, because I want to make no mistake and I understand that we are all coming at this from different countries, different languages, different perspectives, different educational levels. And I want to make sure that I am speaking in a way that everyone can understand me and not take anything out of context. Before we get into any discussions, especially this kind of conversation, because this conversation is going to be ultra sensitive for a lot of people. And ladies and gentlemen, I want you all to be ladies and gentlemen in the chat. Try not to go back and forth and argue. Just really put on your critical thinking cap so we can really frame this conversation within a context that I'm bringing you today. The fact that this is Mental Health Friday, be prepared to frame the conversation within the context of Mental Health Fridays. I want to make that very clear. I am not diagnosing. I am not, my shirt says, keep talking. I'm diagnosing you. Keep talking. I'm diagnosing you. But for the purpose of this video, I am not diagnosing Eboni Williams or women like her. I just found the conversation to be very intriguing and very telling of characteristics and traits that are found in narcissism. Again, I am not saying that Eboni Williams is a narcissist. What I'm saying is some of the behaviors that I was able to capture in the clips that I'm going to share with you guys, the language I want y'all to listen to, will help me to put into perspective what narcissism can look like in relationships, in dealing with people. Because I find, especially in our community, I find that we tend to throw around the word narcissism as it relates to men. And yes, more men will be diagnosed with narcissism because men and women are socialized differently. Yes, Rayo first. Rayo first says Eboni is speaking her truth. There's nothing wrong with that. This is not about Eboni Williams speaking her truth or not speaking her truth. That's why I said we have to frame the conversation for today. Today is Friday, and Fridays is Mental Health Fridays. Okay? So we're framing the conversation. This is not a dialogue. And I have to put this out there. This has to be the disclaimer because I don't want us to fall off track like I seen in those videos. The videos that I've been watching with this whole Eboni Williams situation, right? A lot of people fall off track. A lot of people take things out of perspective. A lot of people use red herrings to throw people off track. A lot of people gaslight to not take accountability and responsibility. We are framing this conversation for Mental Health Fridays. Okay. Last thing I'm going to address is this person right here. I guess love is love only pertains to gays. What the? See, this is what I'm talking about when I say Mental Health Fridays. This is what I'm talking about. Everything has to be within context. Everything has to be within context. If you want to have a conversation about gay love, which is nothing wrong with people who are identifying as gay, go have conversations on channels that are centered on gay love. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. I am addressing heterosexual relationships. And there's nothing wrong with you want to talk about gay love. There's nothing wrong with that. We're just not talking about gay love today. If that's what you feel like you want to hear today, go to a channel that's going to talk about gay love and you'll get your needs met for today. Just not with today's conversation, right? Everyone always wants to try to control what people talk about. It's the craziest behavior to me. I don't get people. But nonetheless, let me open up with the first part of this video. And I really need y'all to listen. I'm going to be pausing it. I'm going to be talking about it. I need y'all to listen because this is going to be the context of today's conversation. So let's go ahead and get started with this conversation. Okay. All right.
Into the way I show up in my womanhood, which is really the center of this conversation today, Ayala. We want to discuss masculine energy, feminine energy. So in a recent interview with our dear friends over at the Breakfast Club, that went very viral for very good reason, you said that women are being trained to be men in skirts.
Yeah.
I will acknowledge, I will say I was triggered. I was a hit dog, and I hollered to the entire production team to get you here today, because I actually think you're right. I think you're right, Ayanla. I do think that I'll just speak for myself vulnerably. When I think of a masculine posture and what I would expect a man to do in my life, two things come top of mind, and they are provide and they are protect. And when my lived experience, and I think I'm still relatively young, I guess, but I'm 40 in September. So, I've had some relationships, and I've yet to find a man who has shown, I mean, this includes even my father, who was absent. I've yet to have a male energy that provided or protected me consistently ever. So I think that I have taken on the reins to protect and provide for myself. Because what I'm not going to do, Ayanla, is be without. Baby, it's not
Be
happening.
without more.
So let's stop right there for just a second, okay? We're going to stop right there for just a second. Now, you hear her talk about she has never been with a man, and she has been with many men, right? She's ran the gamut, different cultures, different races. She has said she has never been with a man. Now, I've never been with a black man. Now, I've never been with a Hispanic man, an Indian man, an Asian man. She said, I have never been with a man. Now, she was engaged. I believe she was also married before. The man that I showed on the screen is the man that she was engaged to, who is a white man. She says she's never been with a man. Did y'all all hear that? Did y'all all hear that? She has never been with a man that have protected her or provided for her. I want y'all to just sit on that for just a second, because the whole conversation went left. I don't even know how we got on black men, and I don't even know why black men became the target. That's what I mean when I say a red herring. So I'm going to be using some language I want y'all to pay attention to. When I say red herring, for those of you all who do not know what that statement or that phrase means, a red herring is when you start bringing in other things that has nothing to do with what you're talking about, and it throws people off track, right? When I was in my doctoral work, when we were preparing for our dissertation, if you went off track, you were in trouble. You were in trouble, because what you would do is start to bring in other things that has nothing to do with the context, the thesis, how you are framing your conversation. So once you start going off track and you start distracting people, what are you really covering up? Or do you not know what you're trying to say? See, in my studies, it's because you haven't formulated your thoughts and you're not clearly making your point, and you're not supporting your thesis. So they send you back to the table and they have you really string through your thoughts, because everything must connect the dots. Yes, Monique. Monique said, follow the bouncing ball. I'm saying this is because she had a conversation about men. She has never had a man protect or provide for her. When she thinks of a man, when she thinks about masculine energy, whatever the conversation is, we're going to get to that. She resonates that, or she calculates that in her head to mean provide and protect. She never had a man to provide and protect her. She's been engaged. She's had relationships. I want y'all to really sit on this for just a second, especially the women who are going to have a hard time receiving this conversation today, because Eboni Williams is the voice, the mindset, and the avatar for a lot of women out here. And not many of them, I'm not saying all of them, but not many of them fully think through their thoughts and what they're saying. Right? They don't really think through their thoughts. They just are emotionally responding to their situation and what they're looking for, what their emotional needs are, and then they run with it. So she's starting off talking about being with a lot of different men, different backgrounds, different cultures. And nobody has protected or provided for her. Nobody has. Not the white man, not the Hispanic man, not the black man. Nobody, nobody, nobody. That's what she said. Nobody has protected her or provided for her. I want you guys to think about the context. Think about the context, because this is how the conversation started off. Think about the context. Let's go back to the video. You got that so far? Nobody. And it's so crazy because, beloved, I know we're going back to the video, but a lot of women, especially when I work with women in my practice in therapy, clinical work, they have that mindset. No one is there to protect them, and no one provides for them. There's no one out there. And then they say, I'm going to start dating white men. I'm going to start dating Hispanic men. I'm going to step outside of my culture because my culture ain't it. First, you said nobody. Then you're going to step out of your culture. Many of them step out of their culture and they experience the same thing. So that leads me to believe that even though she was engaged to this man, he wasn't meeting her needs. He wasn't meeting her needs. Now, I did read an interview that she had with someone, and what she had said, and I'm paraphrasing, it's not a direct quote, but what I'm paraphrasing is she said that she left her relationship because he was a father, a divorced man, father, and she felt that he didn't make the time for her she needed. A lot of his time, especially during COVID, was spent with his children, and she felt that she wasn't a priority. Now, we're going to get into that. We're going to get into that because age matters. We're going to get into all of that today, and then we're going to get into narcissism. Age matters. Age really plays a very important or significant role in a dating process for men and women. For men and women, not just women. Women have it harder in some respects because those who never had children who would like to be a mom, they have it harder in some respects. But men and women both have it hard. So let's go back to that. She's never had anybody provide for her. I just want y'all to go ahead and just put a pin in that. We're going to examine this order. We're going to break down narcissism, okay? We're going to break it down, baby.
I had a very lovely single Black mother, and I'm going to get to the statistics on single Black motherhood and family life. But she was, by definition, more of a father figure in terms of providing and protecting. And I think that's very common. So according to the U.S. Census, Ayanla, 23% of households in the country are single parent households, and we know 80% of them are led by women. How does this affect the child? Both little girls, little boys, non-binary children. How does that frame their expectation of women when the mother is in charge?
It all depends on.
Now, remember what she's asking. This is important. She went on to talk about how she had a single mother household, and her mother was more of like the father figure in terms of provision. The mom is the one that constantly provided for her. Now, this is a woman who does not know her father. Like, she recently, through, I think it was ancestry.com, found her father, but no relationship came about it. It's not like this man looked for her. She went looking for him and no relationship came about it. She said she doesn't have a name, or now she probably has a name, but at one time she said she doesn't have a name, she doesn't have a picture. Maybe she has a picture now, maybe she has a name now, but she went searching for this guy because her father figure growing up was her mother. I want you to listen to that. But her mom in terms of provision. And so she touches on a really important factor here when it comes to single women headed households. And she asked Iyanla a question. Now I'm going to rewind that because I want y'all to really capture the question that she asked. and listen to what Iyanla said. I'm not going to play the whole thing with what Iyanla said. It's going to be cut off, but I want y'all to really capture that. So let me go ahead and rewind that.
I think that's very common. So according to the U.S. Census, Iyanla, 23% of households in the country are single-parent households, and we know 80% of them are led by women. How does this affect the child? Both little girls, little boys, non-binary children. How does that frame their expectation of women when the mother is in charge?
It all depends on
when the mother is in charge.
It all depends on what the mother or the woman demonstrates about being a woman.
I know that Black women are earning college degrees faster than anybody else. Many of us are doing like.
So, like I said, I wasn't going to play the whole thing, but Iyanla's response to her, very powerful, very significant, because this is all going to go into when I start to unpack narcissism. And I am not diagnosing Eboni Williams. I just think the conversation is really important, because then I'm able to give you guys some audio, some visual into what narcissism really looks like. Because a lot of people throw around the word narcissism, they have no idea what they're talking about. And a lot of people overlook the fact that there are women narcissists too. And quite frankly, if they're not worse, they're just as bad as the men narcissists, right? So we have to really watch that. But what Iyanla said is it all depends on how the mother sets the example for the child, right? For what being a woman looks like, what being feminine looks like. The mother will set the stage. And Iyanla, if you listen to the video, she goes on to say that, if a mother is constantly working and just providing, and she's not really taking her time out for the kids, or she's constantly complaining about everything that she has to do in order for her to survive, in order for her to provide for the children, right? That will determine how the children receive it. Now she goes on to her next category. So let's go back. Yes, Damon, narcissistic personality disorder. Yes, we're going to get into that, because a lot of men get caught up with narcissistic women. Woo, baby. Woo.
Demonstrates about being a woman.
I know that Black women are earning college degrees faster than anybody else. Many of us are doing like we're doing, Iyanla. We're getting those terminal degrees, those JDs, MD, PhDs. We also are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs, along with Latina women in America. Pew Research said that women are now out-earning men yes, in 22 of the largest cities in America, including where I live, New York, DC, LA, you name it. When we talk, and I know that you've said that you cannot teach a man or tell a man how to be a man. So
now I got to stop that. I got to stop that for just a second, because I need you now to start to brace yourself, because this is where we're getting into it, right? I need y'all to start to brace yourself, because remember what I said at the beginning of this video, everything is about framing it within context, right? So the whole conversation that we're hearing on the Breakfast Club, the whole conversation we was hearing with her clap back is red herring. Is a red herring, because it had nothing to do with the context and what she framed her question to Queen Mother Van Zant, and how Queen Mother Van Zant positioned herself to ask her a question. That was a power move on her part. That was a power move. But we probably not going to get into that today, because there's psychological dynamics behind that. So that was a very good powerful move. But I want to go back. I want to play over that video again, just a small clip, in where she framed it about women. When she framed it about women working, out earning men, becoming more educated, right? She framed it earning more. She framed it in that way. And then Iyanla hit it with the question. But you have to listen to the question that she asked Queen Mother Van Zant. I want to respect her and give her flowers while she's alive. You got to listen to it, y'all. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to rewind it back.
of us are doing like we're doing, Ayanla. We're getting those terminal degrees, those JDs, MD, PhDs. We also are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs, along with Latina women in America. Pew Research said that women are now out earning men
Yes.
in 22
Yeah.
of the largest cities in America, including where I live, New York, DC, LA, you name it. When we talk, and I know that you've said that you cannot teach a man or tell a man how to be a man. So I will not ask you to indict men in this question. But I do want you to speak, Ayanla, to how women need to, I don't know, position ourselves so that we can be in our divinity, so we can have our crowns right, how we can create and not build, when some of us, quite frankly, feel that the men that are available to us, and I'm talking about across the color spectrum, across the age spectrum, trust me, I've done them all, they are not positioned to protect nor provide because of some of the statistics we just talked about. They're not earning the incomes. They're not having the resources, and some of them are not even showing up in the leadership.
Stop right there. So y'all all heard her video. Y'all all heard her video. Y'all all heard the kickback, because we're going to get into narcissism, y'all. Y'all all heard the kickback. What was she framing her question in? Right? What? And I don't want to see, I'm not putting up some of the comments because this is not a disrespect Eboni Williams show, right? She's entitled to her opinion. I want to show you guys something. That's the whole purpose of today's Mental Health Friday discussion. I want to show you guys something. So try to just sit on your emotions for a second and let's engage. Let's engage in a conversation. We all heard what she just said. What was she framing? What were the things that she said in that statement before Iyanla asked her the question? What were some of the things that she was saying in her statement, y'all, that resonated with you? What did your ears hear? Not what she came and told you that she said, not what she said on the Breakfast Club, not what she said in her clapback, but in that interview, what did you hear her say? Okay, one person said, laugh out loud, that she said she had them all. Okay, and that's going to resonate with the man. Listen, y'all, listen, because this is a guy. I'm assuming Lieutenant Soul, I'm assuming you're a guy. Let me know if you're a male. But this is going to resonate with a lot of male, with heterosexual males especially. It's going to resonate with them, right? Somebody said, well, she didn't. See, this is what I mean. We're just talking about that one clip that you heard. Christopher, you did not hear her say anything about Black men in that clip. She said all men. You see how you see how red herrings work? You see how red herring, this is why it's a distraction. Because now the conversation has turned and it allowed her to backpedal herself out of something. Y'all got to think critically in these conversations, right? She didn't say that women do not out earn her. You said women do not out earn me. That's not what she said. That's not what she said. Here's another person is saying she said she's more successful than men. She didn't say that she was more successful than men. That's not what she said. You see, y'all gotta really listen. Right? Somebody said, she said a lot of men are in leadership. She didn't say a lot of men, but she did mention that some of them are not showing up even in leadership. Okay. Somebody else said she's better than men. She didn't say that. So do I need to go back and play this again? Because this is where people started to interpret whatever they wanted to hear. And I'm not going to get into the clinical aspects of that right now, but even when I'm doing couples therapy, because y'all know I'm a couples therapist, I'm all about relationships. I'm a relationship expert. My doctoral studies is all in relationships, attachment disorders. That's what I do. And even when I work with couples, people hear what they want to hear. And that's why when they first get with me, it's really hard to work with me, right? Because I have a different style. I have a different intervention, modality, and clinical approach. When you work with me, I'm going to make you repeat back everything you heard your partner say, because people just run with stuff. People just run with stuff. People start putting interpretations on things. And once you start running with things and you start putting interpretations on things, you lose the whole context of the conversation. Right? So let's go back. We're going to play it again. We're going to play it again. Give me a second, family. Y'all just might as well get your damn popcorn, because we're going to be here for a little bit, because we got to stop doing all this crazy stuff.
Indict men in this question. But I do want you to speak, Iyanla, to how women need to, position ourselves so that we can be in our divinity, so we can have our crowns right, how we can create and not build, when some of us, quite frankly, feel that the men that are available to us, and I'm talking about across the color spectrum, across the age spectrum, trust me, I've done them all, they are not positioned to protect nor provide because of some of the statistics we just talked about. They're not.
Okay, stop right there. She said she's talking across the spectrum, age, color. They're not in the position to provide because of some of the things we just talked about. Do y'all remember the things that she just talked about? That's it. Y'all need to get a pen and paper, right? Y'all need to get a pen and paper. I don't want to tell you what it said. I want y'all to learn to listen. So let's go ahead and back that up. Again, we're going to back it up to what she actually said when she started to talk about statistics. Okay, that's what she did. She framed it, even though in her video or the Breakfast Club, she said it was never about money. She framed it about money, education. So Iyanla, or Queen Mother Van Zant, asked her a question. Power move, but she asked a question because her ears was actually listening to what was being said, right? And this whole conversation went all the way left, and man, look. Okay, so let's listen again to what she's saying about women, and then she frames the question. Y'all get your pen and paper and stop playing games with me. Let's go.
We're getting those terminal degrees, those JDs, MD, PhDs. We also are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs, along with Latina women in America. Pew Research said that women are now out earning men yes. in 22 yes. of the largest cities in America, including where I live, New York, DC, LA, you name it. When we talk, and I know that you've said
women are out earning men in some major cities, right? That's what you heard it said. Women are getting their education. Thank you, Kayla. Thank you, Kayla. Let's put it up there. Women are getting their educations. They're opening businesses. They are out earning men. That is the framework of the conversation. That's what I mean when I say you have to have dialogue within the framework, how something is positioned. And see, what I learned as a therapist, when you reflect back to people what they say and their ears hear it and it doesn't fit good with them, they become very reactive, right? They become very reactive. They start to lash out. They start to become aggressive, argumentative. But these are the things that you say. I see it all the time, especially. Now, again, I'm not diagnosing Ebony, but especially in my work with narcissistic women when they come in with their partners. And I reflect back to them word for word, verbatim. I even record some of my sessions because some people like to say what they didn't say. So I get their permission, they sign a consent, and sessions get recorded because I'm going to play it back to you. I'm going to have you here because I listen, right? And when you say things back, they get defensive. So you got to think about how it was framed, okay? So let's go ahead and continue because Iyanla's thing is coming right now, y'all. Ooh, baby is coming. I was laughing.
That you cannot teach a man or tell a man how to be a man. So I will not ask you to indict men in this question. But I do want you to speak, Iyanla, to how women need to I don't know, position ourselves so that we can be in our divinity, so we can have our crowns right, how we can create and not build, when some of us, quite frankly, feel that the men that are available to us, and I'm talking about across the color spectrum, across the age spectrum, trust me, I've done them all.
Across the color spectrum, across the age spectrum, trust me, I done them all. Just make sure y'all got that, okay? Just make sure y'all got that. Cause this, I don't know how we started beating up on my black men, y'all. I don't know how we started beating up on my black men, but I ain't feeling that, y'all. I'm not feeling it. But go ahead.
They are not positioned to protect nor provide because of some of the statistics we just talked about. They're not earning the incomes. They're not having the resources. And some of them are not even showing up in the leadership.
Would you date a bus driver? Would you date
if he owns the bus? If he owns it. If he owns the bus.
See, that's a problem. That's a problem. That's a problem. Okay. Because the standards and requisites, and I'm not talking about him laying on his sofa playing video games all day. I'm not talking about that. But the standards and the criteria that we use to measure men is off for who we are as women and who they are in this society.
Okay, let's stop right there for a second. So Iyanna caught off guard with that question, right? See, Sonia, you got to get out of your bag right now, right? And don't be confused, and please don't take it the wrong way, because I don't know if you came in late in this conversation, Sonia, but that question here is from emotion, because no one is saying it is bad. Today we're talking about female narcissism, and like I said, this is not about whether Miss Williams, what she said was wrong, right, good, bad. It's not about that. And I know that you all have been listening to the dialogue on other people's channels where they're going back and forth and there's division. And I'm glad we're all having this conversation. But we need to be having this conversation from multiple perspectives, from multiple lenses, because there are a lot of things that are being revealed about our community from this conversation, not just the battle between men and women, right? So to answer your question, please don't be confused, beloved. I don't think Iyanna, or Queen Mother Van Zant, I don't think that Miss Williams, I don't think anyone is saying that it's wrong to want a man that provides. No one is making that conversation. So what I want to be careful is when we start doing red herring, because that would be considered a red herring. And I know you, I don't know if you came in late or not when I talked about red herrings, but like I said, is a distraction, right? Because that's not the conversation at hand. And if we really listen to what is being said, we'll be able to capture it. But if we're only listening through our emotional ears, we're not going to be able to capture the dialogue that's happening. And we're not going to be able to follow my bouncing ball when it comes to mental health. So we have to be really careful about that. So to answer your question, I hope I'm making it very clear. There is nothing wrong with a man providing. You know, if you have a quality man, men want to provide, right? There's nothing wrong with that. There's a reason why. Okay, good. Sonia said she just got here. Okay, so I'm glad I was able to give you a little small synopsis of what I said when I first came in. So this is not about provision. This is not about being good or bad. Don't get caught up in this crazy conversation that's happening right now, because it's a bunch of distractions, a bunch of red herrings. That's all it is, right? But listen to what Queen Mother Van Zant said. She did that intentionally because what she was picking up was an energy. It's the same energy that I've been picking up, listening. And that's why I say, oh, let's talk about narcissistic personality disorder. It's an energy that's being picked up here. And sometimes when you want to see where somebody's head is at, you throw them a curveball, right? He who talks less controls the conversation. It's a rule. Why do you think therapists say less? Why do you think when we're in session, we say less? Because when you say less, you can listen more. You can't listen and talk at the same time, right? You say less, you can listen more. And you can listen to not only what's being said, but the energy behind what's being said. You can listen to it. And that's what Queen Mother Van Zant was doing. Now, I'm not here to say who was right, who was wrong. I can care less. It's not about my position. Y'all know. Woo, y'all know how I like my men. So this is not about me. I just want us to listen to the energy. Now, listen to what's happening right now, okay? Let's go back to it. Trying to teach y'all how to be a therapist in an hour.
I would date a bus driver if he loved driving the bus, if he was a man of integrity, if he was good to his mama, if he treated me well, I would date a bus driver. But we think that it's another human being's responsibility to give us what we need instead of us building together. I could build with a bus driver. I'd have my little stash over on the side in my prenup, but I could build with a bus driver. So I think some of the criteria that we look for in the reality of today keeps us unhappy, keeps us angry, keeps us imbalanced. And then when the men show up.
Stop right there. Stop right there. See, Queen Mother Van Zant is getting into the emotional aspect of it now. She said, keeps us unhappy, keeps us angry, keeps us unbalanced. She said, when we have these expectations, when we create these visions, when we have these ideas of how a relationship should look, ought to look, will look, and then it doesn't show up that way, it makes us angry. Now, come on for a second. Come on for a second. Don't get caught up on the nonsense, right? Like I said before, don't get caught up on the nonsense. Don't start going with the red herring. Don't start making this about men against women, the hypergamy versus hypogamy. Let's not do that. Let's not do that for today's conversation. Think about the emotional response that many people have, not just women, men too, when you have these expectations of what your marriage is going to look like, what your relationship is going to look like, what your life is going to look like, what your career is going to look like. You have these expectations and then they're not met. What tends to happen? See, Queen Mother was getting into the emotional aspect of what happens across the gamut. I have a woman right now that I'm working with, and she can't get out of her depressed state. She can't get out because here it is. She's 38 years old. Her relationship ended. There was no marriage there. Her relationship ended, and she's having a difficult time pairing up. She wants a man with no children, preferably, or at least adult children. She wants a man who wants marriage. She wants a man to come with a certain income level. And there's nothing wrong with any of that stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. She's an educated woman. She's a career-oriented woman. She wants a certain type of man, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I don't tell her what my thoughts are when it comes to age and when you start getting into different brackets and what men actually look for. And, I don't have those conversations because she's depressed, right? So I have to work with her through those things. And then on top of it, she's also struggling with her weight, to lose her weight. All these things matter, right? So she has these big expectations for what she wants, and the reality is not measuring up. The reality is not measuring up for her, right? So she's experiencing, and we're not talking about Eboni for those who are coming in late. We're talking about somebody I'm personally working with. She's experiencing a lot of sadness, a lot of guilt, a lot of shame for where she's at in life. The fact that she's never been married, the fact that she doesn't have any children, the fact that she's worked so hard to get all that she has for nothing. She's afraid that she's going to be 40 and not be a mom. This is a story that a lot of women have. This is a story of a lot of women. whether they're very successful or not. When they start getting to a certain age, this is a story of a lot of women. Those expectations. Those expectations. And that's what Queen Mother Van Zant was getting into. She was getting into the expectations and how it will leave you without. Now, even though the career of being a bus driver was brought up, you know, you can change bus driver and put any other career on there. You could have said police officer, you could have said teacher, you could have said primary care physician, you could have said, and see, listen to what I'm just saying. I just threw in primary care physician because when people hear doctor, they automatically assume, oh, doctor, oh, he's doing well. I'm dating a doctor. Well, what kind of doctor are you talking about, baby? Because if your man is a primary care physician, he's not going to be coming with a lot of money, baby. He's not. He's not. And if you don't really understand the medical field and how many of us who are in private practice, how we're getting bought out, right? We're leaving our private practice and we're going to work for bigger corporations. We own the practice, the way the insurance companies are. I mean, it's crazy in these streets. It's really crazy in the streets, right? So what I'm saying to you is we have to really get into that. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of educated men, beloved. Deanna Price says, but he will be educated. Is it all just about the education? Because you can have the knowledge and still be broke. It doesn't matter about your education. And see, this is what Queen Mother Van Zant is challenging. But he'll be educated. Okay, we all know that knowledge is powerless when it isn't applied. Right? We all know that. So somebody can have a doctorate in education, and maybe that person is a principal, and that person is making low six figures. That person is making, 175 to 200, maybe 250. This is where they're at. And not all of them are making 250. Trust and believe. They're in that 100 to that low 200 mark. And that's with the PhD. And that's why I want us to have this kind of conversation with critical thought. Right? That's why I want us to have that kind of conversation, because we say things like, at least he'll have an education, or at least he's a doctor, at least. But you can be a doctor, beloved. You could be a doctor, but if you have nothing else to grow your money, to grow your investment, you still ain't got nothing. So what kind of doctor are we talking about? A surgeon? It's a very different doctor. An anesthesiologist? It's a very different doctor. But let's go back to the video because I don't want to become a red herring myself, right? I don't want to go off track. Somebody said, be a doctor, still be broke. Yes, that is possible. That is possible. Doctors graduate with a large amount of debt from school. And then they don't get do you know how long it takes to actually start practicing without being in residency? That's a whole nother conversation, baby. But let's go on.
Well, we want to beat them up because they're not living up to our standards. In my prenup, but I could build with a bus driver. So I think some of the criteria that we look for in the reality of today keeps us unhappy, keeps us angry, keeps us imbalanced. And then when the men show up, we want to beat them up because they're not living up to our standards and criteria. And it's not working, beloved. It's just not working. So it's not that it's bad or wrong. It's obsolete. It's obsolete. We have to come up with a new way of being. I don't believe in carrying a man. A man has to do for himself.
One thing before you leave us, I have to ask one thing about dating. The reality is there are more men right now, Ayanla, on dating apps
So let me stop right there. So y'all understand what I'm saying when I said Queen Mother Van Zandt hit her with the psychological and emotional aspect of it, right? Thank you, Toy. Toy said I understand it from both point of views, from Ebony and Iana. You're right. We have to be able to see things from multiple perspectives, right? There's nothing wrong with what either one of them were saying, but we're talking about how do you feel at the end of the day? How do you feel? That's critical, right? That's critical. And then we will start complicating the conversation with age and what you desire out of a relationship, right? We got to look at all of that. I mean, Miss Williams is someone who had spoke about single motherhood previously, and then in another conversation she spoke about taking the step to freeze her eggs because she doesn't know if it's going to happen. And then in another conversation I heard her on a different show, she spoke about she's considering now just go ahead and entering into motherhood on her own because she's getting older. This is the reality that a lot of people are in. Again, like I said, she was engaged to this man. Like Iana just said it. I'm gonna rewind it. I'm gonna rewind what Iana, Queen Mother Van Zandt just said, and I want y'all to listen to it, right? Because what I was just telling you all that she left, Miss Williams left her fiance because he wasn't spending enough time with her. The white guy she was engaged to, right? So let's go back. Listen to what Queen Mother Van Zandt just said.
The criteria that we look for in the reality of today keeps us unhappy, keeps us angry, keeps us imbalanced. And then when the men show up, we want to beat them up because they're not living up to our standards and criteria. And it's not working, beloved. It's just not working. So it's not that it's bad or wrong. It's obsolete. It's obsolete. We have to come up with a new way.
Now, again, she didn't say when the black man shows up into our life, we treat him bad, we beat him up. She said when we get the man, when the man shows up, we have all these ideas of what we want our man to be. And when he shows up, we beat him up. That's all she said. This wasn't about a black man thing. This wasn't about a poor man thing. One person is talking women are strong, women are educated, women are opening businesses, women are out earning men, and then the other person's talking about the emotional aspect of relationship. You can have all these things, but let's talk about the emotional aspect of relationship. Will you be happy if you get all these things if what you really need is not being met? But if somebody shows up that doesn't have all these things, but meets your emotional needs, will you be happy? That's all the conversation is really about. That's all it's really about. But we turned this into a black man thing. We turned this to a lot of things. Ooh, I can't. We're about to get right into this NPD. We're about to get into narcissistic personality disorder. We turned it all the way left. And I don't know how that, well, I know how that happened. So when I say I don't know how that happened, I'm being facetious, but I know how that happened. It was a red herring, and it played on the emotions of the Black population. It started to turn really, really left, and it did not draw us closer together. It once again divided us. Once again, and it had nothing to do with the conversation at hand. This is how I got to watch my words because we do have to be responsible with the words that we say and how we show up. But I want us to be strong-minded. See, and that's all. See, I was going to say the opposite of strong-minded, but just imagine how you all would have responded if I said, I need us to stop being feeble-minded, right? People would have got offended, even though it's just a word and it still makes sense of what I'm trying to say. But words are powerful, people. Words are powerful, not to a narcissist though, But words are powerful. Narcissists don't care what they say to you. We're gonna get into narcissists in a second. But words are very, very powerful. You see the difference? Me saying I don't want you to be feeble-minded versus I want you to be strong-minded. See, in clinical work, we call that a strength-based conversation, is a strength-based perspective. Instead of saying the negative aspect, because that breaks people down, you use the strength base, the positive word. So I want you to be strong-minded in how you go about this dialogue and how you listen to the language at hand, right? So let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and continue this conversation. Give me a second.
Way of being. I don't believe in carrying a man. A man has to do for himself.
One thing before you leave us, I have to ask one thing about dating. The reality is there are more men right now, Ayanla, on dating apps and seeking partnership than there even are women, contrary to popular belief. And a lot of men say that they're struggling, probably because of what you named earlier, probably because the expectations of many of the women are out of sync with what society is offering at this point in time, blah, 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 blah. How do women adjust our energy so that we are more successful when it comes to dating? If we're looking to date.
Do we just want to date or do we want to be partner? That's one thing. If you have in your consciousness you want to date, you can date forever because you're going to find something wrong with everybody. But if you want to be partner, my question is, what is your vision? What is it that you see for yourself, within yourself, about being in partnership? And are you willing to be in partnership as a woman, or do you want to be a dude having a relationship with a man? And when I say a dude, I mean how you manage yourself, how you talk to men. We got to stop talking to these men like they're boys.
Now, watch the switch, y'all. It's about to be a switch hitter now. Now, I'm not going to stay on what Iyanla said too much, but listen to what she said. Remember when I said to you guys a little bit ago, I said, when she said, would you date a bus driver? Queen Mother Van Zant was picking up on energy, right? So she threw a curveball to see how she was going to respond, right? She wanted to get that aspect in there. And then in a subtle way, she brings in, well, it's not even subtle. Let me not say that, because in the beginning of the conversation, I correct myself. In the beginning of the conversation, Miss Williams brought up masculine versus feminine energy. Now, Queen Mother Van Zant is just wrapping it right back there. Because she said, how do you want to be? You talking about date? Because you can keep on dating because you're going to find a problem with everybody, right? See, or do you want to be partner? Anybody who has been married for a long time, and I'm talking about people that 10 years or more, like raise your hand, right? 10 years or more. Anybody who has been married for a long time, I'm not talking about someone who had a fly-by-night marriage, been married for 6 months, been married for 2 years. That don't count. Unless you've been with a person for like 400 years and then, y'all got married. I'm talking about those of us who have been partnered for a long time. We know that there's a certain mindset, a certain behavior that must be present in order for the relationship to sustain itself. Not everybody is fit to be a husband, and not everybody is fit to be a wife. See, we like to just pick on the husband aspect of it, but the reality is not every woman is fit to be a wife. See, a wife carries a certain aura about her. A wife that's in a healthy marriage. Let me just make sure I distinguish that. A wife that's in a healthy marriage, she carries a certain aura. And she knows that there are certain things that absolutely must be done. And there's certain things that we just don't say, right? We may think it, we may want to say it, but we hold it back. Not because it's making us any less, but because we're not interested in winning a whole bunch of little battles, but losing the war. Right? We want to win the war. We know when to just secede on certain things. Because we are the keepers of our home. I'm going somewhere with this, y'all. Y'all got to just listen to me. We are the keepers of our home. We're supposed to be the peacemakers in our home. Not just for him, but for everybody, including ourselves. For the children, the pets, the husband, right? Everybody. So there's a certain position. So when Queen Mother Van Zant is saying, do you want to just date? or do you want to be partner? What she's doing is drawing out the distinguish. She's distinguishing the difference between the two. She sees it. She sees it. She hears it. She feels the energy. Right? So she's drawing it out. She's drawing that out. Now, let's see the switch. Let's see how the switch go. Y'all told y'all get your popcorn because y'all's going to be here for some time tonight. Let's see the switch. Woo, baby, the switch is coming. The switch is coming. Here we go.
But Dr. Iyanla went in a different direction. She asked me a personal question. And y'all know I have been extremely transparent about the fact that my life choices and my chosen lifestyle are far outside of the norm. So when I said that I would date the bus owner, a lot of y'all heard something different.
I want y'all to now listen to the tone. You cannot have communication without tone, right? Because it all works together. The words that are being used, the energy in which the words are being communicated, the posturing, the body language, the facial expressions, all of that goes into the message. I want y'all to pay attention to how the tone starts coming across. She was calling people online emotional, but she's very emotional, right? If she was in my office, I would put a pulsator on her finger so I can check her heartbeat. Because what I find, especially people, and I'm not saying she's narcissistic, I'm not saying that. I'm always saying this, the narcissistic, because that's how I'm framing today's conversation. But what I find oftentimes when working with somebody, and I realize that Alexa is such a violator. What I find oftentimes is they will appear cool on the surface, both men and women, but that heartbeat, man, is pounding because they're mad and they're triggered, right? Because they do not like their ego to be tested. And it starts coming off aggressive, argumentative, angry, not rational. You say one thing in this breath and you turn around and say something else. I'm about to show y'all right now, and we're about to get into it. Oh, baby, Lord Jesus, I'm going to stop pausing it. I'm going to just let it play, y'all. I'm going to let it play. Listen to the tone. Listen to the wording.
Some of you heard the following. Bus drivers are whack. Bus drivers are broke. Oh, and I'm too good for a bus driver. The only thing is, y'all made that part up. See, I said what I said. But then some of y'all started talking about salaries and hourly wages, pensions and benefits. And that's wild because I was never talking about money at all. I was talking about Black ownership, but some of y'all made it about money. I'm talking about ownership, Black enterprise and entrepreneurship, because really I am talking about Black liberation. If you read my book, you'll understand why. So I'm standing 10 toes down on that position, and I don't really care if you're hurt or offended by it. And since some of y'all are already big mad, let me go ahead and make you incensed. So out of the 50,000 plus comments posted on social, I only saw a handful that even considered the possibility of a bus owner being a more aspirational position and recognizing that I am actually speaking and pouring into the ascension of Black men when I said what I said. But see,
okay, wait. How do we now get into Black men? How did we now get into the ascension of Black men? How did we get into any of that? See, what I did at the beginning of this podcast today, what I did was slowly tease out, or in my world, we say unpack, right? Who else likes to say that word unpack? I love to unpack. I slowly unpacked it. I slowly tease it out so I can make sure the framework of my audience was in position to stay within the context of the conversation. So y'all let me know before we get into this part. How did I do with that? How did I do? Give me your feedback, right? When I positioned the conversation, I unpacked it, I slowed it down, I teased it out. We had dialogue about some things. I reminded you, I asked you guys, what did you hear? You guys put in the chat the things that you hear, and the things that y'all was hearing was wrong, and I took it back and I rewinded it, and then I asked you again, what did you hear? Then you guys started getting it right. Come on now. Come on now. Come on now. Am I making this stuff up? Am I making this stuff up? You see, I want us to be strong minded. I want us to stop being easily swayed and offended and emotional when things happen. I want us to stop, unpack it, analyze it, turn it back, rewind it, dedicate the time into it so that you can really understand why you're angry. I want y'all to really understand why you're angry. Why are you angry? Why are we even at each other's throats? Besides the red herring that happened, I know that's why we're at each other's throats. The gaslighting that's about to occur, I know why we're at each other's throats. I wanted to thank you, Queen Mother. I wanted to keep you all on track for a reason, because what I'm hearing online, what I'm seeing in different people's chats, I'm scratching my head like, does anyone think? It's like, do we not have critical discourse anymore? Does anybody pause and really look this whole thing over? Are people just invested in being right? You can't be wrong and strong. You can't be wrong and strong. I just don't understand what happens in our community. But let's go ahead. Let's go ahead. Let's go back to see how now the gaslighting is about to start happening, right? And then we're going to get into narcissists. I know I keep saying it, but I want to set the stage because everything's about context. Everything's about context.
No, some of y'all were too busy naming and shaming me personally and Black women in general as undesirable, gold diggers, and much worse. Now, I suspect that some of y'all are the same men that were bringing home C's and D's on your report cards, only to then be coddled by parents that said, well, that's okay, as long as you're doing your best. So I'm going to say one more time, there's absolutely nothing wrong with driving a bus. My mother, Gloria, drove one for years. But could it be that Black America has been sold a narrative of average, regular, and typical being good enough for us? Well, see, that's called white supremacy. And in this case, it takes the form of conditioning Black Americans to happily accept being a permanent American underclass.
Okay, y'all. We're about to get into the last segment of this. Did y'all hear that? Did y'all hear that? Oh, we're going to start talking about narcissism, y'all, again. I'm not saying she's a narcissist. I don't know her, but you know my shirt. Keep talking, baby. I'm diagnosing you. Keep talking, baby, because I want to show y'all my world. I want to show y'all what I have to deal with on a daily basis. On a daily basis, I want to show you all what I have to deal with and how people will gaslight you. Baby, they'll hit you with the fast one. Oh, baby, they say some cutthroat words, and then when you reflect it back, I didn't say that. You projecting. You trying to put that on me. Play that tape back. Right? Play that tape back. I'm project. Baby, no. I've been doing this work for a long time, sweetie. That's why I stay to myself. That's why I stay to myself. You know why? Because let me tell you something. Some of these narcissists, they come pretty, baby. The men and the women, they come pretty. They come pretty. Now, some of y'all who are my Iris women who have been in my Iris classes, and I teach you guys and I disclose a lot of my life so you guys can know where I'm coming from. Y'all already know my husband was or is successful. And he is a narcissist. And I didn't know, baby, I'm about to show y'all how he looked when I put on Miss Williams from the Breakfast Club. I'm going to show y'all how he looked. I used to sit back and scratch my head like, where's this argument going? Like, I used to sit there like, I I'm replaying the stuff that I said, like, babe, hold on a second. Hold on, babe. Let's rewind for a second. This is what happened, right? And then this happened, right? And then you said this, right? And when I reflect back, well, let me change it. Let me change it. Y'all better stop. I'm telling y'all don't know what narcissism to I'm a whole clinician, baby. I'm a whole therapist. And I did not even know I had a narcissism until I knew. I had to go to therapy. I was like, let me go to therapy. What the hell? What the only thing I said was good morning. Right? I'm just trying, baby. Baby. All the name calling, she was firing shots. I said, wait, do y'all need me to play that back again? Do y'all need me to run that back so y'all can hear how the shots started to be fired? Calling people emotional, but that was a bunch of emotion. A bunch of emotion. Right? A bunch of emotions. But come on, let's just go ahead. Let's go into the Breakfast Club. If y'all want me to rewind that back, y'all let me know. But I started to scratch like, she just said. I was having flashbacks. Somebody said, yes, run it back. Okay, I'll run it back for you. I'll run it back. Because y'all gotta hear the choo 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 choo. Right, you have to hear it. Yeah, I played the whole beginning part. No blackness was brought up between the conversation between her and Queen Mother Van Zant. No blackness was brought up. Nothing about ascension, black men ascending. Nothing about leadership, ownership, entrepreneurship. None of that stuff was brought up in the interview with Queen Mother. Baby, I got the receipts. I got the receipts. I'm here for it, y'all. I'm here for it. I'm here for it. Let's go, y'all.
Talking about Black liberation. If you some of y'all started talking about salaries and hourly are far outside of the norm. So when I said that I would date the bus owner, a lot of y'all heard something different. Some of you heard the following: bus drivers are whack. Bus drivers are broke. Oh, and I'm too good for a bus driver. The only thing is, y'all made that part up. See, I said what I said. But then some of y'all started talking about salaries and hourly wages, pensions and benefits. And that's wild because I was never talking about money at all. I was talking about Black ownership, but some of y'all made it about money. I'm talking about ownership, Black enterprise and entrepreneurship, because really I am talking about Black liberation. If you read my book, you'll understand why. So I'm standing 10 toes down on that position, and I don't really care if you're hurt or offended by it. And since some of y'all are already big mad, let me go ahead and make you incensed. So out of the 50,000 plus comments posted on social, I only saw a handful that even considered the possibility of a bus owner being a more aspirational position and recognizing that I am actually speaking and pouring into the ascension of Black men when I said what I said. But see, no, some of y'all were too busy naming and shaming me personally and Black women in general as undesirable, gold diggers, and much worse. Now, I suspect that some of y'all are the same men that were bringing home C's and D's on your report cards, only to then be coddled by parents that said, well, that's okay, as long as you're doing your best. So I'm going to say one more time, there's absolutely nothing wrong with driving a bus. My mother, Gloria, drove one for years. But could it be that Black America has been sold a narrative of average, regular, and typical being good enough for us? Well, see, that's called white supremacy. And in this case, it takes the form of conditioning Black Americans to happily accept being a permanent American underclass. Volume.
So y'all heard that, right? You heard that. Y'all heard that. Y'all all heard that. White supremacy was brought up in there. Black men, Blacks being part of the underclass, all of that stuff was brought up in there, right? Now let's get into the Breakfast Club, y'all. Somebody said loud and clear. I just want to make sure we all hearing the same thing, right? I want to make sure y'all hearing the same thing, baby, because the energy, Queen Mother Van Zant picked up on that energy, baby.
That we need to have the impact that I seek as a teacher in this world, Charlamagne, if we don't put out that clickbait. That's the reality.
So it was to bring attention to a larger conversation.
And guess what? What we know, because we all sitting here today talking about this shit a week later, is it worked.
It worked.
But then you came back and the next day people feel like you doubled down. On
I don't feel like I did.
Okay.
I stood 10 toes down.
And what did you say when you...
Now, I want y'all to pay attention here. Because he said people felt that when you came back, you doubled down. Now, we all know what the language double down is, right? But when you're so emotional and so upset, or as we call it in my world, when you are emotionally dysregulated, something really happens to the brain. The brain doesn't allow you to get enough oxygen so you can think logical and with reasoning, right? So she wasn't really being able to hear what's being said because she was upset. She was angry. She was worked up and she was on the defense. So it wasn't allowing her to be able to really listen, take it calm, take it slow so that she can process what's being said and respond accordingly. And I see this a lot in a lot of relationships. I see this in a lot of relationships where people are so angry. And when I'm in couples therapy, I will not have the session continue if the couple, one or both, are dysregulated because they're not able to hear each other. They're listening to respond as opposed to being able to hear what's being said, right? So here we go. Listen to what's about to happen because remember now she's like, yeah, I did double down and I'm standing at 10 toes deep. And then you're going to see how the anger gets switched when somebody corrects her so they can broaden her understanding. And, you know, I know she understands what being 10 toes deep into something and doubling down. I know she understands it, but she was so angry, she wasn't able to comprehend it. That's something that actually really does happen. You don't have to believe me. You can look it up, okay? I'm not making any of this stuff up. Hey, babe.
Standing down though, I think you completely like took a different turn.
I
Like,
agree.
that was
so?
I agree.
I
told
actually
you
thought it was tough
I
to
agree.
watch. And you know I love
And guess what we know, because we all sitting here today talking about this shit a week later, is it worked.
it worked.
But then you came back and the next day people feel like you doubled down. On
I
what you said.
don't feel like I did.
Okay.
I stood 10 toes down.
And
But
what did
I
you
don't
say when
think that
you
was
when you-
standing down though. I think you completely like took a different turn.
I
Like
agree.
that was
so?
I agree.
I
I told you
actually
that.
thought it was tough
I
to
agree.
watch. And you know I love you, but like
No, you don't have, but I feel you, but that has love ain't got nothing to do with it. Tina told us that. So go ahead. I want to hear
because
the
to me
response.
10 toes down would have been like, yeah, this is the choice that I'm making. This is my preference. This is the type of man I want. What I watched were you talking about people as a whole,
Right.
and even white supremacy, bringing up, calling, saying average. Like it to me, it felt like almost attack on the working class and the people that were in them comments more than it was the man you're looking for.
So let's address it, Weezy. I'm glad you brought that up because that is the turn that I took. So at this point, who gives a fuck about who Eboni K. Williams is dating? Let's throw that over to the side because it's irrelevant.
That's your preference.
And
I agree.
And
Right.
who gives a fuck, right? So now let's talk about my real work in this world, the work God has called me to do.
Whoop! The switcheroo. The switcheroo, y'all. The switcheroo. Whoop! Y'all hear it, right? Who gives a... Now let's talk about the real work. I can't make this stuff up, y'all. I can't. Let's talk about the real work, what God called me to do. I love being a therapist, baby. I love being a therapist. Let's talk about my real work, what God really called me to do. Woo! We're going to talk about the narcissism. We're going to talk about the narcissism. Ooh, the gaslighting is real. Switch it up. Switch it up. Wait. Woo. Y'all, it's about to get really real. Let's go back. It's about to get really real, baby. It's about to get real. Woo, Lord.
Which is to always sit in a posture of elevating, advancing, and offering options to Black Americans for us to have a first-class existence. So when I talk about a permanent Black underclass, that's something that I talked about in the response video that Weezy citing. A lot of people felt a way about that. What the fuck does she mean, a permanent Black underclass? What I mean is the data. So I sent Charlamagne on the front lines in a way that disproportionately makes us vulnerable. We're dying because of it. That is my issue. Not to disrespect these people.
I feel like you're changing the goalposts, right? What people were upset about was what you said, and everything that you said could absolutely positively be true. People were upset that they felt like that you were putting.
Now, let me let you guys know when she's talking about the data, because I clipped that. She was talking about COVID. So after she said she was there to uplift and all this stuff, she started to talk about frontline workers. And as we've seen in COVID, we were the ones dying. And when I talk about the underclass, it's because we got to uplift because we were the ones that was dying. She went into COVID. I mean, it was white supremacy. It was like, I was like, my head was spinning. I was like, hold on, rewind that back. Okay, go back to the Yana's video. Okay, make sure you stay in context, Shonna, because I don't want to start chasing the rabbit down the hole, right? I had to rewind it back a number of times. But she brought up COVID, people dying from COVID. It was crazy. And then DJ Envy. He ain't let her get one off. He ain't let her like run. He didn't let all her beauty, her education, her wits. He didn't let that cloud him. He was like, no, snatch his back. Boom. We're going to have this conversation right there. He snatched it right back real fast. And woo, baby, she had a response to that. So let's go ahead and listen to her response. She was not trying to fill that, baby, the way he snatched that back. Baby, if snatching a wig off was a person, oh, the way Envy did, oh, baby.
Putting down the average person, quote unquote, average job, and the person that was working the average job.
Makes us vulnerable. We're dying because of it. That is my issue. Not to disrespect these people.
I feel like you're changing the goalposts, right? What people were upset about was what you said, and everything that you said could absolutely positively be true. People were upset that they felt like that you were putting down the average person, quote unquote, average job, and the person that was working the average job, that their what they do is not as good as what you do.
That's a projection, Envy.
No,
Envy, that's a projection. Because
I'll let you speak. Let me talk.
Yeah.
So when you start talking about all this, and I read the comments just like you did because I wanted to prepare myself when you came up here to understand what people were mad about and understand what people were upset about. So when you're talking about all this brother this and the black man this and the white supremacy this and this, that, and the other, that's all to the side of how you felt about that quote unquote average job, right? And I'll be honest with you, right? And one of the comments that I said, and maybe I'm not sure, right? The guy was like, you talk about all this about lifting a brother up and lifting this up and white supremacy and what you do for our people. And then the first thing the brother said was, but your fiance was white. And I'm sitting there like, how do you talk about how much you're uplifting and how much you're going for black people, but that's not necessarily what you're even looking for?
Well, first of all,
paging Dr. Umar, damn.
Well, let's address it. And let's not skip a beat. So I would love to know how you, Envy, know what I'm looking for, because we never had the conversation.
I don't know.
But
I'm telling you what people are saying on comments, what I've read, and I'm talking for them. I'm not a bus driver. I'm speaking for the average person out there, because I feel for them, because the bus drivers and the average person are what keeps these lights on here on the Breakfast Club. That's right. They keep me booking shows.
Nobody is saying, okay, first of all, this is not about you booking shows.
I'm just telling you how I feel. So when you shit on the people that
first of all,
with me,
Envy, you're dead ass wrong for framing it as me shitting on them.
You don't think I was shitting on them?
I know it. First of all, I know it wasn't. I think what you're saying right now is irresponsible. I think what you're saying is.
Now, y'all see how she felt some kind of way when Envy said you shitted on the people. Now, before she was saying she don't care about your feelings, she don't care about your emotions. She was saying, oh, it's not about your feelings, it's not about your emotions. But then she took to that. She really didn't like that. She really didn't want that. And she started to go left with it, right? But how she was conversing, I see a lot of couples, and obviously Envy and Miss Williams is not a couple, but I see a lot of couples talk like this. So they're talking over, they're bringing stuff up that doesn't really belong in the conversation. It gets really messy.
Irresponsible. Envy, I think what you are framing right now in this moment is highly irresponsible. Because if you listen, I'm going to tell you. Because if you were to listen to all of the full Yana interview, the full sidebar, the full episode of Holding Court, Nowhere in any of that commentary did I say a cross or negative word about the working class of Black America, of America broadly, or Black men. I'm going to get to the why was my fiance. Envy, let me finish this statement.
Listen to it again.
If you were to listen to all of the full Yana interview, the full sidebar, the full episode of Holding Court, nowhere in any of that commentary did I say a cross or negative word about the working class of Black America, of America broadly, or Black men. I'm going to get to the why was my fiance. Envy, let me finish this statement.
Do you know what
I'm
people
going
feel?
to get to.
Just because you didn't mean to hurt somebody, just because you didn't mean to affect somebody, doesn't mean you didn't hurt a community. I can say anything about somebody and be like, I didn't mean to hurt you, but if you hurt people, you hurt people. Y'all
heard that, right? Y'all heard that, right? We're going to rewind that again. Y'all heard that, right? I just want to make sure y'all heard that. Because it's almost finished, right? And then we can get into I'm going to run some things down real quick about narcissism, but y'all really heard that, right? First, it was he was highly irresponsible about what he said, not what she said. She doesn't take accountability for being responsible for what she said, but he was irresponsible about what he said. Right? Then she went on to, she don't deal in feelings, but you all in your feelings. People get gaslighted out here all the time. They'll have you thinking you the crazy one. If you don't sit back and unpack and analyze and listen, they will have you thinking that you are the crazy one. Gotta be careful, y'all.
America, of America broadly, or Black men. I'm going to get, if you listen, I'm going to tell you. Because if you were to listen to all of the full Yana interview, the full sidebar, the full episode of Holding Court, nowhere in any of that commentary did I say a cross or negative word about the working class of Black America, of America broadly, or Black men.
So then how did we get on Black America? How did we get on Black America? Because she's right. She's right. In the video with Queen Mother Van Zant, she didn't bring up Blacks at all. She kept saying across the gamut. Now, all of a sudden, we're on Blacks. And now she goes back to, I didn't bring up Black Americans. It's like, what? I'm nauseated, dizzy. I'm like, wait a minute. What the hell? What the hell? What's going on here? Let's rewind this back. But, it's crazy. It's crazy.
I'm going to get to the why was my fiance. Envy, let me finish this statement.
Do you know what people feel?
To get to.
Just because you didn't mean to hurt somebody, just because you didn't mean to affect somebody, doesn't mean you didn't hurt a community. I can say anything about somebody and be like, I didn't mean to hurt you, but if you hurt people, you hurt people. If people feel a way about you, they feel a way about you because those people that you talked about are the people that buy your books, that listen to the show, and they're hurt.
Ebony, what about words like average, mediocrity, typical, and the bigotry of low expectations? I think those are the words that hurt the working class.
You can sit here and say, no, I didn't hurt nobody. You hurt people out there that buy your books and follow you and support you.
You asked me to be quiet. Y'all, please. Y'all asked me to be quiet. I listened to your full statement. I understand you have a feeling about it.
22 minutes, and I just spoke for 60 seconds.
She is here to talk to him.
I know, but I just spoke for 60 seconds.
We got ours off already. Let Ebony talk.
I'm just returning what she said.
But
don't act like I didn't let her speak. She spoke for 22 minutes.
Go ahead, Ebony. Let her talk. Don't do that. Let her go. Go ahead.
So, Envy, this is where we're different. My primary focus and goal when I do what I do in the world is not to protect feelings. I'm going to be candid with you. I understand it's clear from the energy that there is an emotional attack that you felt was on Black men, the working class, and Black America. I'm going to hold the space for the hurt feelings around that. But more than I care about hurt feelings, I care about providing my people with facts and information that say that the current way of life for the majority of Black Americans is not serving us. I'm going off of the data and the facts.
Okay. So, Ooh. I loved it. I think you guys should go and listen to the whole 40 minutes. on the Breakfast Club. I absolutely loved it. I listened to that thing like 3 times. I mean, I loved it. I loved it because here's why. Okay. So, just so y'all can know, narcissists has they have a great deal of insecurities, vulnerabilities, lack of empathy. I don't deal with people's feelings. I don't deal in feelings. A lack of empathy, entitlement, grandiosity. I'm called to do this and do that, and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. Grandiosity, superficiality. Superficiality. If you go back and listen to a lot of her other videos and stuff that she talks about, a lot of the stuff is superficial, right? A lot of the stuff is superficial. What you know, and I hear it with a lot of women, not just Miss Williams, but a lot of women. I'm talking about the women who are narcissists. A lot of women, they're very superficial in nature, and the stuff that they want or desire, especially in a partner, is stuff that will like inflate them, right? Make them bigger. That's that grandiosity that's there. They have arrogance and they have challenges managing their emotions, right? So those are some of the traits, right, that I want you guys to pay attention to. Also, you have to understand that a narcissist is created, and typically a narcissist is created via their childhood environment. And it's typically from their primary caregiver, right? So that could be someone's mom, that can be their grandma, their uncle, depends on who's the primary person that's spending the most time with that person. That primary caregiver can be someone who is invalidating, inconsistent in the child's life. That the person can be cold or distant, unavailable. They also may have poor boundaries, right? Sometimes they expect validation from their children, or they live vicariously through their children. Like, for example, if you're constantly telling your child how pretty she is, right? And having them participate in pageants and all these things, and you're separating them from other children who you feel are not worthy to play with your children. They live vicariously to their children and they put them in these kind of situations, right? And that's what I mean when I say a narcissist is created. They seek a lot of validation from their children, and they're constantly criticizing their children's insecurity. Lose weight, walk up taller, you know, don't sit on that side of the table, whatever the case is. They're constantly criticizing them. You know, you got to grow your hair. No one's going to like you if your hair is not long. No one's going to like you if you're not pretty enough. No one's going to like you if you're not skinny enough. They do things like that constantly. So it shapes the person's personality. It starts to shape their personality and it shapes their behavior. Now let's talk about women narcissists, because women narcissists can have personalities that are extremely demanding. They're overly critical, and they're verbally or emotionally abusive toward their partners. I'm smiling. I'm smiling because they can get the perfect partner, the most doting, loving man, the man that will do anything for them. And that woman narcissist will always find a way to verbalize to her partner that she needs him to do more. She needs him to spend more. She needs him to buy her more gifts. She needs him to create more experiences for her. She needs him to spend more time with him. So, in other words, no matter what he's doing, he is not doing enough, and she needs more. So that can always leave the man that's in a relationship with a narcissistic person as though they're not good enough for her. They're not adequate enough. And if he's a man who struggles with his self-esteem or has a weak ego, which is a psychology term, if he has a weak ego, he's going to always try to live up to her standards so that he can make her happy. He's not going to walk away from that relationship. A lot of these men stay in relationship with narcissistic women for a very long time because a man's natural way of being is to provide, is to to problem solve, is to fix. That's their nature. So she's always telling him that he's not enough, he's not doing enough, she needs more. He's trying to solve the problem of her unhappiness, and he's constantly going to be in that hamster wheel trying to solve it, trying to fix it, trying to help her to be happy. It's a losing battle. Because this person, a female narcissist, will identify nothing but problems. Nothing but problems. And if you do that to a man, if you're always pointing out the problems with men being natural fixers, natural problem solvers, he's constantly going to try to be working extra hard to make you happy, especially when you're married. Because we know when you're married, you're more inclined. We're more inclined. Tonya, I'm not diagnosing anybody. I'm talking about narcissism. I am not talking about anybody. I use that clip because I was able to see, as you would say, Tonya, traits, and I'm talking about actual narcissism. I'm not talking about traits. Anybody can have narcissistic traits, but it won't make them a narcissist. I am talking about narcissism. So for Mental Health Fridays, I don't know if you're new here or not, Tanya. I don't know if you just logged on right now, but for Mental Health Fridays, we take a situation and then we frame it in the context of mental health. That's what we do. So no, I should not be saying traits because I'm actually talking about NPD, right? But nonetheless, even narcissistic women have high, intense jealousy and raging emotions, right? And a lot of men are naturally attracted to women that are narcissists because these women are typically highly attractive. Remember, they're superficial beings. So they're going to put a lot of emphasis in the way they look. They're going to put a lot of emphasis in the way they dress, who they know, who they hang around. They're going to put a lot of emphasis in their prestige, their access, their social network, their social capital. They're going to put a lot of emphasis in that. So they tend to be very attractive. And I'm not just talking about in a physical sense. I'm talking about their whole get up, their whole resume is very attractive because they spend a lot of time, not only on their appearance, but they spend a lot of time creating the image that they want the world to see about them, because all of that stuff is rooted in their insecurities and their vulnerabilities, right? All of that stuff is rooted there. So to mask it, to mask the insecurities that they have, they really work on what they externally put out to the world, right? That's how they operate. So these people are highly attractive. They spend a lot of time on their appearance. Their superficiality is a big part of their personality. Oh, it doesn't get really deep with them. It looks really pretty on the outside, but when you start to, as you can see, I'm using it as an example, as I showed you guys the conversational clips from the Breakfast Club as an example. But when you start to go deeper and you start to say, that's not adding up, oh boy, they're going to explode, because that's going to speak to their insecurities, because they're really on the surface. They're really on the surface type of people. You got to really think about it. And when these women are raised by their moms, check this out, y'all. Check this out, y'all. When these women are raised by their moms, they typically carry the same insecurities that their mothers have. Now, I'm not diagnosing Miss Eboni Williams. I'm not doing that. I'm not talking about her and her mama in no way, shape, or form. I'm talking about narcissistic women who are raised by narcissistic mothers. They usually the apple don't fall too far from the tree. So man, I'm not going to go there. Let me just finish with the two types. So I want y'all to really focus on two types of narcissism. You have the grandiose narcissism, and then you have the vulnerable narcissism. The grandiose narcissism are people who present with self-confidence. They have superficial charm, like they can win you over, but that's about it. They ain't gonna go that much deeper. They're arrogant, they're resistant. Key word right there. They're resistant to criticism. Y'all need to put a star by that. Resistant to criticism. You cannot have a critiquing conversation with them. You cannot have a critical thought conversation with them that requires them to look at their own selves, to take responsibility and accountability for how they're showing up and how they're making other people feel. Oh no. Oh no, you cannot do that. Not with a narcissistic man or woman. We're talking about the women today. You cannot do that with a narcissistic woman. Oh my God, they are resistant to criticism. As y'all, I use that clip so y'all can see how that looks like, how it looks when somebody is resistant to criticism. There also are very callous, unemotional people with externalized anger. So the key word for you to circle is external, right? They are callous, unemotional people who have externalized anger. That's your grandiose. That's your grandiose personality narcissism. I wanted to point that out. And the reason why I use those clips, because those clips will highlight someone who would have a grandiose narcissistic personality, right? The ones that inflate themselves, overly confident. They think they're the best thing since the cream of the crop. They deserve everything. It's very, very interesting how they operate. Now, the last one that I'm out of here, y'all. The last one is vulnerable narcissism. Remember, I told you 2 types I want you to focus on: grandiose and vulnerable narcissism. Vulnerable narcissism, and they can be interchanging. Sometimes somebody can show up in the grandiose, and depending on the circle that they're in and the type of insecurities that are now being triggered, they can fall into a vulnerable narcissist, right? So these people are distrustful. They often feel insecure. They often feel resentful. They have a lot of shame. The people who are more vulnerable, they have a lot of shame about them. And it's interesting because, again, I'm not diagnosing Miss Williams. I'm just pointing it out so I can give you guys perspective of how that might look. So how would it look if a person has a lot of shame? If you heard her in the interview with Queen Mother Van Zant, she said twice about how she's had a lot of them. She's ran the gamut. She said it twice, right? So most people won't even have that kind. Most women won't even have that kind of conversation, especially if she's a woman of a certain caliber, of a certain stature. She won't have those kind of, a certain status. She won't have those kind of conversations about, how many men she's been with the gamut, because even if she's not a virgin, right? She likes to keep that kind of information very subtle, right? She doesn't really want to put it out there, not because she's ashamed of it. It's just not classy, right? It's classless. So when you put it out there like that from a person that has a vulnerable narcissism, is really coming from a place of shame. I'm telling you, you got to listen to the words. You got to listen to the words that are being said. They're also hypersensitive to criticism. Now, remember what I said, grandiose. Grandiose narcissism, they're resistant to criticism. The vulnerable one is hypersensitive to criticism. And it looks slightly different. Same characteristics and traits, but it's slightly different. They also can be defensive, cold, unforgiving people, distant, and they have internalized anger. So that's the key point right there I want you to look at. If you're dealing with somebody with a grandiose narcissistic personality, the anger is external. It is outward. If you're dealing with somebody that has a vulnerable narcissism, is the internalized anger is inward. Right? I was married to someone who had the vulnerable narcissism. It's very interesting, very interesting. But like I told you, I was going to show you what the arguments used to look like in my house. I used to scratch my head like, what the fuck did I say? What? Only thing I said was good morning. This is what, whew. I used to be like, whoa. I can't think like this. You're shooting too fast and none of it is making sense. Let's really just, I can't think like this. That used to be me all the time. Like, I can't think like this. What are you talking? That's not what we talked about. We was talking about breakfast. Like, it's the craziest thing ever. So I just found that was very interesting. I wanted to share that, guys, with you. Share this all with you guys for Mental Health Fridays, because sometimes when we talk about narcissism, We really don't know what it looks like. And we often put it on the men. Oh, he's narcissist. He's a narcissist. He's a narcissist. He's a narcissist. But women can be narcissists too. And baby, I think they're more dangerous than men, if you ask me, because women got that charm. They got that charm, especially they work on their outer appearance. Those are the ones that be in the gym all damn day. But body be snatched for the gods, baby. They be cute. Hair just be flowing, teeth be perfect and pearly white. They just be gorgeous. And the next thing you know, you get with them. Some of y'all rush too fast and y'all marry them, and then you got a monster on your hand. Baby. A monster raising your children, raising little narcissists running around the place. Listen, I love every last one of y'all. And by the way, this wasn't about the kind of man that you would date or what kind of man you wouldn't date. You date who makes you happy, y'all. If you want to wait it out and find yourself somebody who, makes $1 million or more a year, who has no children, just gorgeous. He don't have no flaws. He ain't got no issues. And he just waiting for you at your ripe old age at 45 to give you a baby and he's 60. You go ahead. You go ahead and you get yourself your 60-year-old man and you have your baby at 45 because who cares? Ain't nobody counting your eggs or assessing your ovaries. Do what you want to do to make you happy. But before you engage in frivolous conversations that go nowhere, that is filled with a whole bunch of red herrings, before you engage in those conversations, make sure you just slow down your emotions enough for you to go, listen to everything, follow the bouncing ball, and then you can formulate your thoughts and your opinion. I love you all. Have a very good night.